Hi, my name is Karin and I'm from Extraordinary Fitness, and today I'm going to talk about my shoulder injury. It's quite a few people who were calling me or contacting me and asking me about how I recovered and how the whole process has been, and telling me that they have been injured themselves. And especially with shoulder injuries, it's so difficult to know what to do. It's really a hard decision once you have an injury. And once I got injured and started to look around, I didn't find many informations about it. It felt like I was the only one injured, and all the feedback I got from the doctors was really negative. It was like 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, a year. So I remember being quite frustrated, and having gone through this and actually having a shoulder which is having an injury still, but dealing with it, I felt like maybe talking about it, telling you the whole situation, what happened and how it went, might help someone else. So here's my story. The cool thing actually is that that night when I got injured, someone was supposed to film the show I was performing in, and the whole injury is on tape. So I will post it a little bit further in the video. You will see how it happened. I looked at the video 100 times. There is no reason why it happened. It looks totally harmless. So I will talk about the injury and how it happened. I will tell you about the rehabilitation, and then I will tell you about my other shoulder. Because first, when everything started, say 6 years ago, I had a small accident, or I had a trauma. I did rope. I was supposed to work in an elevator shack and do a rope number, so it was going to be super tight and small in space. It was very high, but very little space. So when I trained, I kind of thought about that and was like, I can't straighten out my arm. So I took my arm to the side and I catched in a drop my whole weight with that arm, which was super painful, and I felt something is wrong. But the next day we were going to go to Norway to that job, so I was like going there. I couldn't lift the water bottle, I couldn't straighten out my arm, but I still worked the whole Christmas show, and I felt all the time something is really wrong. So over weeks and months I was in pain, and unsmart as I was back then, I didn't check it up. Slowly it got a little bit better, but still always weak, always not strong enough, always in pain. But there was job after job, and I felt like I cannot take off a week, I cannot pause, I don't want to lose time, and So it became like a steady problem case. I always had to treat it. When I worked too much, I could feel the pain, but I could work, I could deal with it. I'm not very sensitive to pain, so it worked. And then came this December 2019, we had Christmas shows, and I've been just being on tour with a singer and performing their aerial, and I was supposed to do pole in the Christmas show as well, and I felt like I'm not properly ready. I didn't have had enough training time. I didn't feel strong enough in the specific pole things. And I was also a little bit sick the night before. So I had fever the night before, and then I was supposed to perform. I was supposed to do two aerial acts and a pole act. And I felt like this is going to be tough. And in the middle of the pole act, I did a small movement, super harmless. I just heard a huge crack. It was like literally I heard a bang. And I kind of slid it down to the floor. You will see the video. I went out and I felt something is broken. And that was my other shoulder. So it wasn't the shoulder which always been problem, always been pain, but I still didn't know what I have there. It was my other shoulder. So they called an ambulance directly because my arm was going in a different direction and I couldn't hold it. So someone had to hold my arm. The show was continuing. Everybody was working, and one who had time was holding my arm. And because the theater was like outside in the country somewhere, it took half an hour until the ambulance even came there. They gave me morphine, I think 2 injections, and they thought my humerus bone was broken because the arm looked so weird. And of course, I came into the ambulance, and it took me 1 hour to the hospital because we are living in Sweden, distances are far. So it was 1.5 hours in, and the pain was not fun. So I got 2 more morphine injections. It was also weekend, of course, and it was night. I have to say, my daughter, who is 14, was performing in the show, and despite the fact that her mother had a very weird looking arm, she continued performing, and everybody just continued, so the guests didn't feel anything, and actually I was really proud over her. My story went on. I came to the hospital. There was like one doctor and lots of patients, so I had to wait a few more hours. They had to put my arm in a casket in order to be able to even take a radiation, because it was too painful to put it anywhere. I talked from the nurse 2 more morphine injections. So I think I was totally high, because once they saw that the arm was dislocated and the doctor was putting it back, they didn't even need painkillers because I was gone. I was high. I remember some flashes of him trying to put it back, and he tried several times and he pulled and pushed, but I didn't feel any pain anymore. So I came home at 4 o'clock in the morning, kind of still happy on morphine, and went to bed and thought like, okay, I can't work tomorrow, but I will soon be back. I mean, it's back in place. Everything is fine. That was kind of the injury. And then the next morning I realized that I couldn't hold even a paper. It wasn't just my shoulder. It was actually the whole arm who didn't function anymore, because somehow I guess a nerve had been injured and I kind of was paralyzed. But I was still like, yeah, this is normal. This happens when you dislocate your arm. I will be fine again very soon. Maybe I can't work next week. And I started to Google, and yeah, dislocation of an arm, 2 weeks. And then you can start to do rehab, and yeah, okay, 6 weeks. Okay, 6 weeks, but that's horrible. But 6 weeks, I will be fine. So lucky wise, I had like a private insurance through our company. So I went to some specialist, or to one specialist in Gothenburg, which is the town which is closest. And I did computer tomography and everything, and the feedback I got from him was everything else than good. He said that my shoulder, all the rotator cuffs are broken, the biceps muscle was off, and I had a nerve damage. And that was actually the thing which concerned him most. So I had to take like neural checks and everything, and that was also like a normal shoulder injury, they would have operated directly, but because the nerve was damaged, they were worried that if the swelling happens again through the operation, the nerve might be permanently damaged, or they didn't even know if he will recover. So they decided to wait and see what happens. So I started to realize that that injury will not be a 2-week thing, not a 6-week thing. I started to read, and only after the operation, a normal, like even if you repair one of the ligaments, you have to be 6 weeks totally quiet so it can grow to the bone, and then you start to do rehab, and the rehab is a long process. So any rotator cuff injury operated goes from half a year to a year. And I started to Google, I started to look for other people who had injured themselves, and I got the few. I wrote to them, I asked them how they did, and luckily some were really sweet and answering back, like Elizabeth, which had herself an injury, and it was so helpful to hear from someone who had it and who had recovered. And I started to look for people who recovered to get a positive feedback. And in the same time, actually the day after the injury, or 2 weeks after the injury, I started to do rehab, because I was still determined that maybe I don't need injury, or maybe that doctor was wrong. I got a second opinion from another specialist, which is the first thing I would recommend. Get several opinions. I mean, you can't cheat a radiation picture, but you can still like get 1 or 2 opinions, find a good doctor to really get a good and honest and straight feedback on what's happening in your shoulder and how it is. I think that's really important, first of all, to get a diagnosis. But I was still not knowing so much, so I started to do my rehab, which was for shoulder dislocation. I worked my muscles, like lifting my arm around and trying to push and working this part, because this part didn't work. And it got more and more clear that even the second specialist said, same thing like the first one, your shoulder is broken. You will never be able to work in the air again. You will probably never recover enough to use your arm again. But they wanted to operate it because I was still young and I couldn't promise anything, and they didn't even know when to operate. So they kind of made a window. They said in 6 weeks we have to operate, because if you wait too long, your shoulder will be too long already immobile before we even operate it, and then the chance is even smaller that you get that you fully recover. In the same time, they were worried about the nerve. So after 6 weeks, I went to the operation, and both specialists wanted to operate together because they felt like the injury was too big and too scary, so they didn't dare to go in alone. And when they put me to sleep, they came and said like, good luck, and we will do our best. We never had such a bad shoulder injury, and we don't know what we are going to do yet, but we will do anything we can. And lucky-wise, it was the best doctors I could have had. And once I woke up after several hours, they told me that they fixed everything. They did several these small operations where they just go in through a tiny hole and they attach the biceps muscles and everything. And they said, so now you just rest your arm and we will see what happens. I'm a performer, so I have been working with my body the last 20 years. I have been performing and living from that for 20 years. So 1 week after the operation, the first days I don't want to speak about so much. They were really painful. Anything, just dropping something in that hand made that the shoulder in that side exploded, because I started to realize that all the muscles are connected. And even if we don't feel it, but if we twinkle our little pinky toe, actually maybe our shoulder actually feels that. So whatever I did, I got the response in my shoulder. And when they operated, they actually also pointed at the other side and said, your biceps muscle here is off, definitive, and you sure have some trauma there, but we'll leave it for now. So I got some answers why I always had pain with this one. After a week, I started to rehearse on a comedy clown show, which we were supposed to do in 6 weeks. And we started to work on that. I did some TV recordings and we rehearsed kind of. We didn't want to tell them that my arm was not well. That was actually before the operation. That was between when I had to wait for the window. So the arm was just tingling there. And we played everything with one arm. And I remember I was supposed to hang down somewhere into the water and someone was supposed to hold me with the feet. And I was actually really worried. How should I come up from there with one arm? Well, we kind of fixed the recording and nobody sees it. I know there was one place when they were supposed to say it was up with your hands. So I was like, up with your hands, but it worked. So quite soon after the operation, and I'm not recommending it, but I felt I will get crazy if I can't move. So I started to kind of figure out, okay, I still have 3 parts in the body which are working. I have this part which is not working at all, but I can still, for example, stretch my legs. So 1 week after the operation, I started to do pancake stretches, like trying to have my arm somehow and just moving, doing something. And I did this like once, twice a week at least, every day, something small, going for walks once I could. So I started to perform again. Still in the show, we built it in that I'm tied up with one arm and I can only manipulate the other arm. And we had like soap on the floor because it was a children comedy show and I was kind of worried to slip and fall down. So, but anyway, I think I did 150 shows in the time of recovery. And after 6 weeks, you get off your mitella and then you start to do super tiny rehab. And for me, even though the doctor said, I will never be able to move my arm again or anything, in my head, it was always like, I will move it again. I just don't know when. I was like, the goal is my arm is entirely fine because they fixed everything, like manually what can be fixed. The rest was up to me. Nerves, I didn't really think about nerves cannot recover or anything. There is hope. So I just started to treat my shoulder like a healthy shoulder in thought and thank it for being functional and never call it the sick one, always the one which is not 100 yet or the one on the way. I don't know. I just try to think like imagining me hanging again and doing all this mind work, which for me was really important. And then I did rehab. Like I found a super amazing, great physiotherapist. I know without her, I would never be where I am now. And this is actually my second advice. So first, find good doctors, get an overall picture, figure out what you have, see what you can do, check your options. Once you have decided what to do, find a great physiotherapist if you operate, even if you don't operate, if there is some chance it might get better, and work with her or him and just follow the exercises. And I did, and it became a game. I mean, I guess all circus people who train a lot are kind of nerds. And yeah, before maybe one was training on something really advanced and nerding in on how to do it. And now I was nerding in on how much I can roll the ball up the wall, how far it goes. And I had some kind of sling over the door and I could pull my arm up until it just maybe here because it didn't move. It hasn't been mobilized in over 3-4 months. I haven't lifted my arm. I couldn't tie my hair for 6 months. I think I couldn't do like a hair thing because my arm didn't come there. And I tried really hard. And yeah, lots of things were difficult and challenging, like shaving. It just never worked because I couldn't lift my arm enough. So it was like, yeah, small things which were challenging and small improvements. And I just did my rehab piece for piece. And yeah, I'm back. My arms are working. I can use it. I've been going through a long process and on the way there was a lot of exercises I could do and I started to train my body basically again from scratch. I did both sides. I did other exercises. I trained my core. I did things on the floor which were aerial, like inwards and with weights on my feet. And I tried to find a lot of possibility to train my body to prepare myself for hanging in the air without even having to use my arm yet, or without having to hang yet. And I mean, it started to be fun, that too. My legs got more flexible, and I just worked on other things. And of course, you are not 100%, so some things won't work and it will not look flawless, and you cannot use everything, but it's still better than nothing. I think to move, to do something is still better. And in some ways, I balanced my body, and that shoulder actually got a rest. Because once I was back on track and I could start to train aerial again and hang a little bit, first with bent arms, later on with straight arms, I realized that I needed to check that shoulder, and there is the biceps one is off, and the supraspinatus is, instead of 8 centimeters, is 2.5. And the doctors, it was the same specialist again, both of them, because they got so interested in my case, came to advise me and checked, and both said I should actually operate it. But I felt I'd just been doing a travel. It took me, I won't lie, it took 1.5 years before I could really start to work again properly. And after 1 year, I did my first aerial performance, and it worked really well. But of course, it was just like, I could do these things specifically for that act. It wasn't like super amazing yet, but it worked. The process to really feel like confident is still ongoing. It's 2 years now, and I start to feel I can go further, I can build up, but it took time. Funny wise, my other shoulder is now the strong one. So this is the strong shoulder because all the functions are there. My nerve recovered, which is miraculous. And I'm very happy for that. This shoulder is still not well, but I decided to not right now operate. I felt like I'm just recovered to go this whole way again for a year, maybe. It would maybe be shorter, but just an operation is always a big thing. You don't know, there can happen a lot of things. I really trust my doctors, but anyway, I'm not incapable right now. It's not like I cannot do anything. So I felt like, no, I will go back to my physio. I will work through my whole body. I will try to strengthen and see how far do I go with a shoulder which is not 100%. And if I feel it's really stopping me, or I cannot do what I want or need, because I'm teaching, and that's something I don't have to do all the crazy stuff anymore. I can teach it. I know how to do it. I know how to teach someone else the things. So as long as I maybe use that and use my knowledge, I don't need to do all the tricks. And in that way, right now, I don't feel it's necessary to go through the operation on that side again right now. How it will look in a year, maybe I feel like, no, I do want to do everything again on both arms. I need it, or I get a trauma because that arm is weaker and something happens, then I will take it from there. But overall, looking back at the whole thing, I never thought so, but I learned a lot. I learned a lot about rehab, about shoulders, about warming up. What I changed is I warm up much more properly than before. I do more overall training. I do more balance training. I try to do everything on both sides. I try to balance my body. I listen better when I have pain somewhere. I more quickly go maybe and check it up, get a diagnose, and then decide what to do. And I kind of relax because I know this fear of, I haven't trained for 2 days, or I haven't trained for 4 days. And kind of this fear we have. I mean, if you would have told me in the beginning it will take a year, I would have thought my life is finished. But time goes, there's lots of other things you can work on. You can work on your point. You can work on your leg extension, anything. Just if you have shoulder pain, if you have something, just do rehab. If you don't need an operation, do your rehab, focus on other things, improve the things you always wanted to improve, make it fun, stretch, and there is no reason to think you lose. You will gain other things, and muscles in general train is the fastest. The quickest to recover is muscles. Everything else takes more time, ligaments, nerves, and everything. So this will take time, and unfortunately injury is part of life. It's part of being an athlete. It's part of working. I wished it wasn't like that, but looking back, I had a few injuries, and thinking positive is a big part. And I'm more than ever loving what I do. And maybe I would have been tired of it, which is impossible now. I feel like a child in a playground when I come here and when I can train. And I gained that. I gained back my passion. And I know I love to hang around in there. I know I love to move and challenge the body. And I really wish you good luck on your journey. Don't give up, hang in there. I hope everything goes well for you, and thank you for watching. Bye.